Okay, this is number 4 on your homework, and I chose to do this one because I know it can be kind of confusing when you see that negative out in front with a negative x cubed. So I wanted to go over this one. The first thing I like to do when I have that negative cubed out there is to factor out a negative 1, is to pull out a negative 1, and then I have all positives left over. So I'm going to pull out a negative 1. Then left over, I have now my x cubed is positive, minus is now plus 2x squared, because I divided it by negative 1. Now I have minus x minus 2. And all that's going to do is it's going to pull the negative 1 out to the front. I just factored something out that's just going to make the rest of this easier to factor. So just like before when we would factor something out, I can just use this new polynomial I created and put the negative on at the end again, just like we had done before. So when I looked at my graph, I graphed this thing on the calculator, but I'm not just going to copy down the graph from the calculator because it says to graph it by hand. You have to find all the zeros anyways. So I'm going to go through, and I found one of the zeros was positive 1. So I'm going to use synthetic division, and I can use synthetic with this new thing that I just created that has the positive 1, and the 2, and the negative 1, and the negative 2. So I pull down 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And I get remainder 0, which is good, because that means 1 was a 0. Should have been. So then I have 3x and 1x squared plus 2 plus 3. So I can just factor this. It's just a quadratic where a equals 1. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be 2, that add to be 3, which would just be x plus 1, x plus 2, because 1 times 2 is 2, but 1 plus 2 is 3. And then don't forget that negative on the outside. Then my other 0 was 1, so its factor would be x minus 1. So I have three things, all with multiplicity 1. Now to graph it, and I'll be as exact as I can here, but it's a little bit tough with this app. I'm going to take my zeros. We're at x equals 1, negative 1, and negative 2. So I'm going to put dots there at 1, and negative 1, and at 2. Thinking about my end behavior, they all had multiplicity 1, so 1 plus 1 plus 1. So my end behavior is going to behave like an x cubed. It's going to go up and to the right, down and to the left, and it's just going straight through all of those zeros. So I start down at the bottom because x cubes start at the bottom and go to the top. And so I start at the bottom here. I'm going to go straight through here. Oh, I missed it. Let me try again. So I start at the bottom, and I go up through this. Then I got to go down through this one and up through this one. Doesn't matter how high or how low I go here. We're just looking for it to cross through those 3 points. And that is the whole problem.